King Superman. It's one of those classic covers that makes the rounds. It got a brief moment in the season 3 episode of Batman Brave and the Bold, Battle of the Superheroes, and it's a thoroughly wild ride just in general in terms of being a story. It's a twist story and a Silver Age one at that. So if you've been here for a while, you're just up on your Silver Age, you'll know that those twists, they can go pretty hard. Superman, King of Earth begins in Action Comics 311 and concludes in 312. Both parts are written by Robert Bernstein with art by Kurt Swan and inks by George Klein, and they were released in 1964. We've talked briefly before about Action Comics 311 because of the backup story, which is a Comet the Super Horse story, and it's one of the ones where Comet is really trying to get with Supergirl. But today, we're going to be looking at Tyrant Superman. I'm Sasha, this is Casually Comics, and comment now, how do you think that Superman's going to get out of being seen as a ruthless dictator? You can comment now and then you can see how close you get later on.
Bah, the gifts your country send me will not win any favors. Now that I'm ruler of the world, my first command is that every nation replace its flag with a Superman flag, like this one.
But while King Superman wants gifts and bowing and flags, Clark Kent will bow for no monarch. One day, as reporters Clark, Superman Kent, and Jimmy Olsen cover a coronation in a minor tropical kingdom.
It's a shame the way all those people are forced to bow when the king passes.
We better bow too, Clark. It's the law of the land here. But meek Clark is suddenly defiant.
Bow, not me. As an American, I don't have to grovel before anyone.
Clark, as a simple formality, here come the royal guards. And then Clark was fired for causing an international incident. Really, this is happening because he needs an excuse to sneak away as Superman because he's seen danger out there at the fortress and he needs to deal with it because Supergirl is in the future. They do make sure to specify this so that there are no "why didn't Supergirl come and help" letters later on. They're trying to cover all their bases. The letters of this period are just ruthlessly looking for errors to correct. I'll read some later. You know, sometimes Clark dashes off with a fake stomach ache or one of those types of excuses, but not here, no. Here he needs to cause some real problems. He's gonna be very dramatic this issue. Both of them, really. Now, at the fortress, the intergalactic danger detector says a menace is coming, somewhere from deep space. However, when he looks into deep space, he can't see anything except for a storm of Red K meteors. Then that means he can't just go and investigate, because Red K will mess him up in some capacity. It's different each time. Dealer's choice. However, huzzah! In this tale, Clark has been working on a cure for Red K, using a piece that split him into two versions of himself, specifically from Action Comics 293, where he got split into an evil Superman and a good Clark. Now, this story goes out of its way to repeat one of the rules about Kryptonite, which is that it can't have the same effect twice. We're of course talking about Red K here. And that means it's already going to have to ignore the fact that Red K split him into two versions of himself as a boy back in Adventure Comics 255. And I guess who was good and who was evil in that split was different, and that makes it entirely different.
If my guess is right, the super powerful acid will react with the Red Kryptonite, creating fumes that will immunize me forever against the effects of all varieties of Red K.
His guess is wrong. Red K stories are too popular. At the time, it's before people started to get burnt out of Kryptonite. Once more, he is split in two, and it's once more an evil Superman and a good Clark. A Clark who instantly gets bullied. This is when Clark's trying to determine that maybe it's different this time. Maybe this time they both have powers. And so then Superman just sticks him outside the fortress.
You're turning blue with cold while I'm perfectly comfortable. Well, which one of us is super now?
I admit it, for Pete's sake, take me inside. Superman also seals the ball city of Kandor so that no members of the Superman emergency squad will be able to stop him. He destroys his Superman robots, even crushes the Phantom Zone projector when Clark tries to do something with it.
Ow, my hand! I'd kill you for that, Kent, but since we were once the same man, I might destroy myself by destroying you. I can't risk taking that chance.
So rather than kill Clark, he flies him so fast that he passes out and then leaves him on a boat, with some instructions to listen to the radio for his next move, which is going to the UN and demanding that they make him King of Earth. Clark blames the fact that he was just at a coronation for why Superman is thinking about becoming a monarch of Earth. No explanation for why Superman takes his boot off and beats the podium with it, though. But taking off his super boot, the speaker proves his identity.
Silence, you puny mortals! Either you elect me King of Earth in 48 hours, or you face the consequences.
Dad, Superman stands for law, order, and justice. Why is he acting like a tyrant?
I don't know, son.
It's meant to be menacing, but all I'm thinking about is the fact that Superman's there berating and threatening people with one bare foot. Well, Clark can't stand for this. He decides that he's actually gonna do something. And so he asks to be taken to the Pentagon, and there he opens a special vault that Superman has set up, and it's full of kryptonite, gold and green. But to Clark's disappointment, sorry, Kent, we can't allow you to use kryptonite against Superman. It wouldn't be legal. So far, he hasn't committed any crime. Even though we don't trust his motives, he's entitled to his rights. Hear that? Threatening to take over the world is fine. Lex, take notes. Well, Clark tried. Everything else is everybody else's fault. The people of Earth vote in a tie towards whether Superman should be their king or not, and so he must demonstrate his might by doing things like blowing ice across the ocean, starting in Africa and then going outward, and also destroying a mock-up of New York on a Chinese test missile base. That one's at least a little menacing because it has a kind of look what I could do to your city kind of vibe to it. He also destroys a mountain with a nuclear bomb. Well, that's it. He's got my vote. All hail King Superman. It does work, and he does become the king of Earth. And then the cover does happen. We get a recreation of it on panel. Why did everyone bring crowns? Did they not see how extra his main crown is? Somebody break the mold and get a scepter. Despite them doing what he wants, he does dissolve the UN, because he can. Not because the gifts are bad, but I'm sure that didn't help. Also, the flags are a different color inside than on the cover. It's not the hugest deal, but someone's gonna write a letter about it later on. Now, all this is too much for Clark. He decides that he's gonna try and form a little bit of a rebellion. They're gonna take down King Superman. Vive la révolution of 4 people. Him, Lois, Perry, and Jimmy. Well, they're all close to Superman, so we've got a good betrayal vibe going. But the coup will have to wait till next issue, which I'm not sure if it's a hot take, a cold take, or a just right temperature take, but I like the cover of issue 312 better. It's just so dramatic.
Yes, King Superman, I'm still alive, even though I now have a mechanical body, and this kryptonite that powers my motor will end your tyrant rule. Kent tricked me. He changed himself into a Metallo robot just so that he could destroy me.
The level that Clark is willing to go to makes sense when you read some of the opening narration on the teaser page. Imagine Genghis Khan, Nero, Ivan the Terrible, and Hitler rolled into one, and you'll begin to understand the nature of the evil creature who now menaces a world he once protected. Evil Superman is a tyrannical despot, that's for sure, but we haven't seen him actually do anything to anybody outside of the threats. It's not a good situation, but the narration box makes it feel a bit more overblown than what we're gonna see even in this, which is him doing things like coming on TV and telling people, you better not rebel, also don't fly over my airspace. Now, part 2 does have a slightly different name. It's King Superman versus Clark Kent Metallo,
which is a great name. It's exciting.
Now, Jimmy is still loyal to Superman. He feels there must be some kind of explanation. However, the other members of the Jimmy Olsen fan club, yes, the fan club of Jimmy Olsen, they're burning Superman souvenirs. There's a scene that kind of plays out like this inside the episode Battle of the Superheroes, only it's Jimmy who's destroying the souvenirs and who's turned against Superman, which is understandable given what Superman is doing. It's just interesting to see the different takes on it. Now, this issue is a fairly long recap as to what happened in the last, which does make sense because there is a lot to set up. And that happens before Clark and the rebellion of 4 have a meeting on Perry's boat. They need to get better at finding hiding spots. Because Superman very easily finds them and doesn't kill them outright, he just deposits them at sea, and they have to wait for the tide to bring them back in. He's also able to stop Clark's next plan, which is sending the Superman robots inside of his apartment after him. Clark remembered that they were there, Superman had forgotten. Those are the ones he tends to keep around for the more banal type of chores. Moments after, on the roof of Clark's apartment house.
Put down your binoculars, Kent. These heads are all that is left of your robots. Got any other bright ideas?
The heads? The bouquet of heads? Clark does have more ideas, thank you very much, and it's going to look for more kryptonite. He can't go back to the Pentagon now, so he thinks that maybe Supergirl has some at her house, meaning at her adoptive parents' house, the Danvers. So he goes to investigate, because Supergirl was trying to work on a cure for green kryptonite, just like how he was trying to work on a cure for the red. So he goes to her house to sneak around in her basement, and he's so suspicious that the cops show up, but he had saved one Superman uniform just in case he had to pretend to be Superman, so now he tries to pull off the whole I'm King Superman routine. Well, there's one way to tell if he's King Superman. A bullet will bounce right off him. Let him have it, Al.
Right, don't get sore, your majesty. We're just doing our duty. They actually shoot him in the stomach,
but thanks to the comics code, there's not too much blood. They also don't notice that it's sunk right into the fabric of his uniform, and Clark is able to just bear down through it like a champ.
But I can't let on I'm badly wounded, nor can I let my blood show. I'll strike an arrogant pose with my fingers covering the wound. Well, what say you now?
You're the real thing, your highness. Forgive us for mistrusting you. A stomach wound is oftentimes a fatal wound, and it proves to be in this case. Clark staggers, falls into some water by accident. It turns out to be a good thing because he's saved by Lori Lemaris, his telepathic mermaid ex-girlfriend. The one he was willing to give up absolutely everything for, but then she married Ronald, the merman. He's still not entirely over it. He is actually dying because he got shot at point blank range, but then he remembers, you know who else had to get an entire body transfusion? Metallo. And after they recap Metallo's backstory explaining who he was and how his body worked, he asks Lori to do that to him. And thankfully they can do it, and they also have some kryptonite lying around so he can be powered up, because that's what powers Metallo. And now, a robotic Clark goes to confront King Superman, who, as was established in the last issue, won't kill him because he's concerned that may somehow kill himself. Clark has no such concerns. Open the chest. Now we're coming to the climax of the story, and so we get to see how is Superman going to be able to regain the trust of the world after all of this. Get ready.
No, you've made a terrible mistake, Clark. I'm good. I'm your friend. Before you kill me, think back to the fortress when I spotted that invisible menace streaking earthward surrounded by red kryptonite meteors.
Okay, so the whole Red K can't do the same thing twice is what we're going to use for this explanation. The idea is this time, yes, they were split in two, but they were both good. Superman was pretending to be evil. The reason? The instant they split, his superhearing picked up instructions from a planet BXPA, BXP. A robot pilot was coming to Earth with a missile and was supposed to demonstrate the aliens' might beforehand with things like freezing, earthquakes, the events that we saw throughout the issue. And if they didn't, on the third day, the alien would come and destroy the Earth. Now here's the thing, nobody else heard this warning, they couldn't. So Superman had infinite options as to how to deal with this. And what he chose? Pretend to be evil and take over the Earth. So then he would pretend that he was causing the disasters that were actually caused by these aliens. Because his logic is, this way they would avoid global panic because people wouldn't know that there were aliens on their way to destroy them. Instead, they could experience global panic because their former alien savior had turned against them.
But why didn't you tell me about it? I wouldn't have tried to kill you, unlike I'm doing right now. I couldn't trust you. As a mortal, you might have accidentally blurted out the awful truth. But I did tip off the world's top leaders to my scheme.
Yeah, Clark, I don't trust you. But I do trust a room full of world leaders, and also note, not all of them. So there are some countries out there just assuming that Superman truly did go evil. There's going to be a lot of cleanup for this, and he really should have told Clark. He should know himself well enough to know how far he would go, which is apparently right to the edge. He wouldn't be dying if he told Clark. Superman was just biding his time until the alien ship arrived on the third day, then it would have to decloak briefly, and then he would be able to take it out. Superman had gone out to investigate the planet that it came from, but found that it was a dead world, ravaged by war. The weapon left over was just an automatic system. And now he's dying, so who will stop it?
A second was all I needed to intercept that engine of destruction. But now it's too late. It's going to swoop down on Earth and automatically release its ultimate weapon. Farewell, Clark. It's nobody's fault that luck ran out on us and the world.
No. This is entirely Superman's fault. He didn't have to say it was aliens coming, but there had to be other options than lie to everyone and pretend that you took over the world. Becoming King of Earth being the A plan is questionable, but thankfully it's Deus Ex Red K time and the two fuse back together. This also takes care of Clark's robot body because this kind of falls off as they become one once more. And also the kryptonite poisoning is cured, hooray! And they're just in time to stop the weapon, sending it hurtling back to the dead planet from whence it came. But now, how to regain the trust of the people of Earth? By saying sorry. Actually, they don't show him saying sorry at all. They just show the UN explaining, and that's why he did it. And then everybody gives a standing ovation. And in no way are the people traumatized or have any fear or any trust issues. They don't have to worry that Superman could do this again at any time. Just take off his boot and Now, not all of this tracks if one thinks about it outside of even just the why was this the first plan he had. The sealing off of Kandor, it cuts off having the ability to have more Kryptonians help out against this threat. Same with the robots, but it has to happen because he's pretending to be evil. So then again, perhaps having a plan that doesn't make your allies and friends try to kill you might be a good start. The people forgave him real fast. Are they gonna leave his palace up somewhere as a memento? Did he destroy it? Can they have their crowns back? The final panel also manages to throw Clark under the bus a little bit, like, oh, Clark was wrong. Clark was the hero of this piece. It does say that it takes real metal to go up against a man of steel, but there's some light Clark mockery, and it's undeserved, especially in this case. You know, as silly as parts of this story were, the core idea was very, very strong. A depowered Clark with the moral fortitude of Superman having to take down a powered evil version of himself, trying to build up an underground resistance and gather what resources he can, is really solid. It's full of interesting character drama. Even the backstory of the alien menace was pretty thought-provoking. The fact that it turns out to just be a mindless echo of a long-dead world destroyed by its own weapons. The concept of having to take over the world to save it is also fascinating. It's just not the best executed. But it does have some fun moments in retrospect. There are some ways one could tweak it that might make it a bit stronger, like perhaps have it that he was doing this to project a show of strength against the alien before learning that they were all a dead race. There are things you could do. But I promised you letters. What did people think of this? Well, let's take a look at a couple from issue 314. Dear editor, I greatly enjoyed part 1 of Superman, King of Earth. However, on page 8, you show Superman pointing to a UN map and saying, my demonstration will take place at 10 west longitude and 250 north latitude. This is impossible because north latitude only goes to 90. Did you mean 25? You're right, we did mean 25. Several other readers also caught this boo-boo. Dear editor, I enjoyed reading Superman King of Earth, But I think you made a mistake. On the cover you show the Superman flag colored blue, and in the story it is white. We confess, we can't think of a good alibi to get us off the hook. However, it was corrected in the sequel, King Superman vs. Clark Kent Metallo.
It gets better. In issue 315, they had some really glowing things to say.
There's also one letter that's trying to do a gotcha, but then it doesn't, and you can tell that the editor, Mort Weisinger, is thrilled because the response explaining why it isn't wrong is so long. As for some positives, here's one of them. Dear editor, King Superman vs. Clark Kent Metallo was the best follow-up story I've read, next to Lois Lane's Outlaw Son. Lois Lane's Outlaw Son is indeed very good. We've talked about it before on this channel. But those are just my thoughts, and I want to hear yours. Did you enjoy this story? Was it what you thought it would be? Did you guess the twist? Too silly for your blood? Would you like them to do an updated version of this story? This is one of those ones where I actually kind of do, personally. What about you? Your thoughts, I want to hear them. Please leave them down below. While you're down there, please do all YouTube things. Like, share, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you never miss a vid. Thanks so much for taking some time to spend discussing comics with me. I always appreciate it, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye!